Tough choices will have to be made, and we will make them, and they will be felt across the province. Two individuals who I've admired from a distance today have joined the Progressive Conservative Caucus.
Now they will have to answer for their actions, both in their constituencies and in the legislature.
Welcome to Inside Politics. I'm Chris Varcoe with the Herald's political columnist, Don Braid. Don, this has been an interesting period of time for the Premier and for the government. Low oil prices has really begun to dominate the political agenda. We saw that in the quarterly fiscal results that were introduced by the Finance Minister last week. We saw that in a speech that the Premier gave Friday at the Calgary Chamber of Commerce, and it almost seems like inch by inch, foot by foot, day by day, the Premier has moved from saying this isn't a panic to we've got to be concerned to now almost warning that belt-tightening cuts are coming. What does this Premier do next?
He's got to act, and most of the action will be private, in the sense that the government's going to be working hard on what you do with $65 barrel, $70 barrel oil. They're starting to craft the budget. They're going to be talking to ministers soon about their own demands. They're going to have to cut programs. They're going to have to cut internally. They can't possibly get enough cuts from internal operations. They've got to go to the public and cut some of the programs. They've got to raise more money. They've got to borrow money. They can't. No one solution is going to fix this. Even if they raise taxes, they won't see the money for another year, which they may do, by the way. So there's going to be a lot of action. Meanwhile, Robin Campbell, the finance minister, said he doesn't want people to panic. So they're underplaying this. They've gone from overplaying it a bit to underplaying it a bit, and the difference has been the continued drop.
Campbell said this week that the Premier has instructed him to get off the oil train. If he can do that successfully, he'll be the first Premier to do this, in 40 years. So he's got his job cut out for him.
Oil is pushing us off the train at this point. Pretty well every Premier has said that in one form or another. Every Premier who's experienced early in his time, her time too, low oil prices, has had a difficult time staying on the job. It does tend to push people out early. It's trouble, no doubt about it.
The issue of gay-straight alliances reared its head again in the legislature last week when we saw Laurie Blakeman's private member bill really throw the government and the opposition parties into a bit of a tizzy on whether they would support a motion that would have school boards support the GSAs in high schools and in schools around the province. But the Premier, who seemed to be a bit backed into a corner, managed to navigate his way out. Tell me how well you thought he managed this issue and what's next for him on that.
From the tactical perspective, he managed it brilliantly. The Liberal bill, although sincere in its goals, was definitely planned in part to divide the Wildrose and the PC caucuses, make them look foolish and make them look anti-gay. That's what it did last spring when Ken Hare did much the same thing. Prentice just wasn't going to have that. His MLAs were mad about it, so he took them behind closed doors. They worked out a bill. They said, here it is. It ain't perfect. It's going to make everybody on the far side of both sides of this issue a little upset, but it's a compromise that can work. And he slapped it down and said, now that's what we talk about. So there won't be much more talk about Laurie Blakeman's bill. That'll die quickly next week. And now he's taken the agenda back in a way these opposition parties haven't seen in a long time.
Politics is the art of the compromise, so points for the Premier. The other issue that we saw was the Premier managed to snag two Wildrose MLAs last week. They crossed the floor, Ian Donovan and Kerry Toll. I think the issue that everyone really wants to know is, will there be more?
There could be. There are people in there who are still discontented. The test for Danielle Smith right now is, can she hold them together? She shows serious signs of rallying and dealing with this. It could, in a way, if she deals with it may even make her stronger. But I wouldn't be too surprised, because there are a couple of MLAs who are tempted, to say the least. But maybe having seen the way it played out, especially with Kerry Toll, they may not want to do that, because she looked almost like she betrayed a friend.
All right, Don, so that leads us to the winners and losers of last week. Who is your loser?
I'd say the entire opposition side of the legislature. Prentice has outflanked them at every move in the legislature, as he has politically, and they're just not tooled up for that. They're tooled up for dealing with incompetent premiers. This guy isn't.
Well, my loser is, no surprise, the person who lost two MLAs, Danielle Smith from her caucus. That seems to be an easy one. But my winner of the week is a little bit of a surprise, and that is Danielle Smith. She survived this firestorm. She managed to not lose any more MLAs, which was, I think, an open question at some point during the week. And you often look back at sort of pivotal moments in people's political careers. This might be one of those pivotal moments for Danielle Smith, either positively or negatively. So that's why she's also my winner of the week. Who's your winner?
The Premier with an asterisk. He has done extraordinarily well on the political front, as we've explained, but he has $60-some $70, whatever, disastrous oil prices. And that's bad luck for a premier, and that's going to control his whole agenda. It's going to consume almost all of his time for a long while.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.